Okay, and just tell us, from what I've seen in this race, so this race was done on paper, you probably have the most extensive resume. So just tell me, like, like you've been in politics like all your life. Like, just tell us about committees you worked on, representatives, senators you worked with, politicians you worked with. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll say that when we first moved to Alaska in the early 2000s, my dad was in the Air Force, and we fell in love with Alaska. And even after the military moved us away, we knew this is where we wanted to come back. After college, I literally graduated college on Saturday, got married on Sunday, and me and my brand new wife were up here the following Friday. And we threw ourselves just headlong into everything. We got involved in, Young Republicans. We got involved in, local causes and organizations, stuff like that, because we wanted to be plugged in with our community. I've been really blessed, with the professional opportunities that I've had. I worked for Governor Dunleavy for a number of years. I've worked for the municipality most recently. I've run campaigns. I've managed campaigns for Republican, conservative candidates, and so I've just been really blessed with the opportunities that I've had, and I feel like I have something to contribute to Eagle River here and contribute to the conversation that we're having.
Now, how long have you lived in Eagle River for?
Bits and pieces, off and on, since the early 2000s, a few years, probably about 8 years at this point, I would say,
okay.
Give or take, yeah.
So now, if elected, what values specific to Eagle River would you like to address in the legislature that you feel currently are not being addressed?
Sure. So Eagle River and Chuget, these are conservative areas, all right? This is probably the most conservative district in the state. And what we have right now is we have a senator who ran as a Republican, ran as a conservative, and then has immediately joined the Democrat caucus, put the Democrats in control of the Senate, votes predominantly with very left-wing people like Forrest Dunbar. And that's so insanely out of touch with what's going on, with what the values are in this community. So one of the first things for me that I really want to take on is I want to take on criminal justice reform. We've got such a broken system, and there's an article a few weeks ago that last year they released up to 35 people indicted for murder or homicide with bail as low as $0. That's completely unacceptable, and Eagle River knows that. Eagle River values tough on crime, and we're going to get that done. And I think that right now we simply just don't have that caliber of representation in the Senate representing this community, and it's time we make a change.
Now, when you look at, say, I'll bring up two things that Ms. Merrick voted for. Now, she did vote to override the governor's veto of SB 140, the education bill. Yep. She did vote in favor of the budget, which is going to give Alaskans roughly, a little bit more than a $1,700 PFD. If you had been in that Senate, in her spot, number one, would you have voted to override the governor's veto? And number two, would you have voted for that budget, seeing what the PFD was going to be equal to?
So here's the thing, regarding the veto, honestly, had I been in the Senate, had there been a Republican-aligned majority in the Senate, there wouldn't have been a veto to begin with. What happened last session was a failure to listen and communicate with the most important person in the room, honestly, which is the governor. The governor signs or vetoes these bills, and the Senate passed a bill without having any idea what the governor was going to do. And so that set up this high-stakes showdown that could have been completely avoided if people had come to the table and said, hey, Governor, what do you want? House Republican majority, what do you guys want? Instead, we have a Democrat-controlled Senate, and they're kind of, they're doing their own thing, right? And I know we like to talk about bipartisanship. We like to talk about, oh, well, we're getting stuff done across the aisle. There's merit to be said to that, right? However, the point is, when was the last time the Democrats had a clear majority in a chamber of the legislature and gave that majority up to form a bipartisan coalition? It doesn't happen. It simply doesn't happen. There were 12 Republicans in the Senate, thereabout. There was enough Republicans in the Senate to form a clear majority. You're telling me they don't think they could have passed legislation that a Republican-controlled House would have agreed with, that a Republican governor would have signed? It's a failure of leadership at the Senate level, and it's time we get better representation out there.
Now, what about the PFD? Are you disappointed in that?
Well, look, the thing that I hear the most when I'm going around in the district and talking to people about the PFD is they're frustrated that it seems like it's the afterthought, right? Like they took 75% of it this year, which is a lot. That is a tax, right? That's money that would have gone to your pocket, but the government said I need 75% of that to pay for government services. I think that before we start talking, about the budget and about this or that, we need to have a realistic conversation about a spending cap and what that looks like as far as safeguarding and protecting against the growth of government. Because if left unchecked, government will continue just to grow and grow and grow, and then the PFD is going to be down to zero. They took 75%. It's been a steadily increasing thing over the last decade, and it's time that we get that in check. And we get that in check by being realistic about our budget, about our finances, instead of doing this roller coaster that we've been doing for the last, however many decades, where revenues go up, so our spending goes up with it, and then revenues come down, and then we're going, oh no, how do we pay for everything? And we could take a lot of instability out of this whole game if we would just have a realistic conversation about a spending cap here at the state level.
Now, on your sign it says trusted conservative. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So for better or worse, if I say this is what I believe, this is what I believe. You don't have to wonder, hey, if we vote for Jared, is he going to go and immediately join a Democrat-dominated majority? Do we have to worry that Jared's going to vote with left-wing radicals, the majority of the time? No, you don't have to worry about that. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. When I say I believe something, I believe it.
Now, have you run in the past?
No, this is my first time as a candidate. I've been on the other side, obviously, in campaigns. First time as a candidate, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's a blast, but it's definitely a lot of work.
No, you're going to have a little uphill battle because you're not the incumbent. Ms. Merrick is, and she's raised a considerable amount of money for her campaign. Granted, it's not federal level what we see with Potola and our presidents. But she has raised a nice little sum. Why do you feel you can beat her? And two, why did you want to take on this challenge?
Yeah, well, I think I'll answer that in reverse order first. I wanted to take on this challenge because last year my wife and I were talking about this race, about the way the state was going. We were concerned because it feels like the state's going in the wrong direction, right? There's a lot of key indicators that aren't looking good for us, and we felt like we had something to add to that conversation. But we just had Noah, he's our firstborn, and we were like, you know what? We're having the time of our life right now, being brand new parents. We really just kind of want to enjoy this season of life. Then at the end of last year, so we decided like we weren't going to do it, we're going to sit this one out. Then at the end of last year, my brother was murdered here in Anchorage by a guy that, he was killed by a bad guy. And we think that as tragic as our situation is, we realized it isn't really that unique. That all across Alaska we're seeing violent crime on the rise, and nobody was really addressing it at the root problems. They've done some good stuff, around the edges. I applaud that, but they're not dealing with it at the source. They're not trying to clear up the bottlenecks that's exacerbating these problems. So that's why we decided to get in. We decided that this is something we have to do. There's a fire in the belly to do that. And why do I think I can win? Because I've been on the campaign trail since January. I've been knocking doors since the dead of winter, -10, worst coldest day I've ever gone door knocking. But we were out there, we were getting it done. And so I've talked to thousands of people all across this district, and people are fed up. People want to change. They're hungry for a change. And I'm not just talking, more in the conservative crowd. I'm talking people who have voted for Kelly every single time she has run, who are saying we're not voting for her this time. She's gone too far. So I think that looks really good for us. So obviously, we'll see the primaries in a few days, but all the indicators are looking really good for us, and we feel good about where we're at.
Now, if you don't finish in that top 4, you don't move on to general election. 1, will you vote for Ms. Merrick? And 2, if you don't, who would you vote for?
So what I've said from the very beginning is that this race is about beating Kelly Merrick. And now there's a couple other conservatives that are in the race that I think are good people. And if either one of them were to place ahead of, if I'm not in the top 2, forget the top 4. If I'm not 1 or 2, I'm dropping out. Simple as that. And I'm going to get behind whoever has the best chance of beating Kelly Merrick, because we have to beat her. We have to take this seat back because the state's going in the wrong direction, and we simply can't afford to continue to let it go this way. So whoever, if it's not me, I'm going to support whoever has the best shot of beating her.